The sun hung low over the riverbank, painting the waters with streaks of gold and amber. The ashram was quiet, save for the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant call of birds returning to their nests. Under the shade of a sprawling banyan tree, Adi Shankaracharya sat cross-legged, his eyes half closed, emanating a calmness that seemed to bend the very air around him. His saffron robes rested lightly on his frame, catching the soft evening breeze. A young seeker approached, his steps hesitant but determined. His brow was furrowed, and his eyes carried the weight of countless questions. He had heard of the sage's wisdom, of his ability to unravel the deepest mysteries of existence, and today he had come to ask the question that had haunted him for years. "Guruji," the seeker began, his voice trembling slightly, "I have long wondered, if God exists, why does He not end suffering? You have said that one path to God is to help the poor and the needy. Yet they too are God's creation. Does that mean God allows them to suffer so that we may test our goodness? Is He biased, permitting some to endure a life of utmost struggle while others remain untouched? At the end of the day, they too seek happiness, comfort, and a life free from suffering. Shouldn't God grant that to them? Isn't this contradictory?" Shankaracharya opened his eyes slowly, his gaze settling upon the seeker with gentle intensity. He smiled faintly, as though acknowledging the sincerity of the question, and said, "Ah, you have touched upon one of the most profound problems known to humankind. This is often called the problem of evil. It is a question that has challenged philosophers, saints, and sages for millennia. If God exists, why does suffering persist?" The seeker nodded, his hands clasped in reverence. "Yes, Guruji, I feel there is a contradiction in the divine nature. If God is all-powerful, He can remove suffering. If He is all-knowing, He understands every heartache and trial. If He is all-loving, He would wish to relieve the pain of all beings. And yet, suffering remains. How is this reconciled?" Shankaracharya leaned slightly forward, his voice calm, deliberate, and measured. "Consider human parents. They are loving. They wish to protect their children from pain. Yet, despite their devotion, their power is limited. They do all they can, but they cannot control every circumstance. If human beings, constrained and imperfect, cannot prevent all suffering for those they love, what shall we say of the divine? If humans were omnipotent, of course they would prevent suffering wherever possible. But God, while omnipotent, allows existence to unfold according to deeper laws that we often do not perceive." The seeker frowned. "But why, then, are the poor and the helpless made to endure unimaginable hardships? If helping them is a way to seek God, does that not make them instruments for our spiritual growth at their expense?" Shankaracharya's eyes softened with compassion. "No, dear one. God does not create suffering as a test. He does not impose hardship to refine us. Suffering exists because the world is governed by the law of cause and effect, the law of karma. Every action bears consequences. Life is a complex interplay of deeds and their fruits. Some consequences bring joy, some sorrow. Yet these are not punishments from a distant deity. They are the natural result of actions, ours or others." The seeker's brow furrowed further. "But many innocent people suffer without reason. Children starve, the sick endure pain, and countless animals suffer silently. How does karma explain this?" Shankaracharya paused, letting the question resonate. Yes, it is difficult to reconcile with the heart. Many philosophers attempt to answer, and there are indeed countless explanations, some persuasive, some less so. One explanation often cited is that suffering builds character. Like the pupae within a cocoon, struggle strengthens the spirit, allows it to emerge transformed. But you are right to question this. Does a starving child or a dying animal truly grow stronger through suffering? Not always. The world does not offer uniform lessons. He continued. There is a branch of philosophy called theodicy, which seeks to justify the ways of God to humanity. Many answers exist, Yet none are completely satisfying to the human intellect. Some say suffering is necessary for spiritual growth. Others claim it is the consequence of cosmic balance, while yet others hold that the transitory nature of life ensures suffering because all compounded things decay, and nothing in the world is permanent. The seeker listened intently, his eyes wide with curiosity and unease. Transitory? He asked. Yes, Shankaracharya replied. Buddha taught that all compounded things are impermanent. Everything we cherish, our bodies, relationships, possessions, joys, will inevitably change, fade, or perish. What we hold as comfort today may dissolve tomorrow. Thus, suffering is not an anomaly. It is woven into the fabric of worldly existence. Even our greatest delights are temporary. Understanding this allows one to see suffering as part of the natural flow of life, not as divine cruelty. The seeker's shoulders slumped slightly. Then, is there hope? If suffering is inevitable, why strive for goodness or spiritual progress? Shankaracharya's gaze deepened, serene and unwavering. There is hope for all Indian philosophy. All schools of Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism speak of liberation, moksha, nirvana. Though the world brings suffering, liberation is attainable. Though our prognosis of worldly life may be negative, the ultimate teaching is positive. A solution exists, a path to freedom beyond suffering. That is the purpose of spiritual endeavor. The seeker's eyes brightened with a flicker of understanding. So helping others, acting with compassion, is not about testing our virtue, but about our own transformation? Exactly, Shankaracharya said with a gentle nod. By confronting suffering, by striving to ease the suffering of others, one purifies the heart. One cannot eradicate all pain from the world, not even great avatars have done so. Yet in attempting to reduce suffering and serve others, one elevates oneself and contributes to the welfare of the world. The river reflected the last rays of the sun, and the breeze carried a subtle fragrance of jasmine from the ashram gardens. The seeker felt a profound calm settling over him, as though the weight of doubt and despair were lifting. Shankaracharya continued. Remember this. Life's suffering is not meaningless. It is a mirror, reflecting the limitations of the material world. It is a teacher, guiding one toward wisdom, patience, and compassion. It is a path, showing the way to liberation. In the sea of suffering, do the best you can. Transform yourself through action and insight, and assist others as far as you are able. That is the path of Dharma and the route to ultimate freedom. The seeker bowed deeply, feeling a profound gratitude and clarity he had never known. I understand, Guruji. Liberation is not found in avoiding suffering, but in understanding it, in serving others, and in realizing the transient nature of this world. I see now that suffering is both inevitable and purposeful, a guide rather than a punishment. Shankaracharya smiled, eyes twinkling with the serenity of one who had known the eternal truth. Yes, the world may appear harsh and full of misery, yet through awareness, action, and compassion, one discovers the eternal within. That is the wisdom that guides all seekers toward the light of moksha. As the sun disappeared behind the distant hills, the seeker remained seated by the river, silent and contemplative. The rippling waters reflected a golden path, and in that moment, he felt a subtle shift within, a deepening understanding that suffering, though present, was neither senseless nor eternal, and that through compassion, insight, and devoted action, the soul could transcend it. In the stillness, the sage resumed his meditation, and the seeker sat quietly, feeling the first stirrings of clarity, hope, and purpose. The river, the trees, and the fading light seemed to join in the silent affirmation that suffering is part of the world, but it is neither the end nor the master. The journey toward understanding and liberation continues, and every act of compassion illuminates that path.